Unfortunately, in practice, most Islamic states have reneged on these rights, especially the last kind. But so have Christians sometimes. And the crucial issue today for Islam is the one Pope Benedict challenged Muslims with in his Regensburg address. Does Islam today accept the theory of natural law and natural rights? In this great address, Benedict challenged not primarily Islam, which tends to theocracy, but much more directly the modern West, which tends to skepticism. He challenged both of these two extremes to answer the question whether they affirmed natural law, natural reason, and natural rights. For that is the only possible basis for an Augustinian solution to our dilemma, an agreement about human nature, human happiness, natural teleology, and natural morality, even if there's disagreement about the greater and more ultimate questions of religion. This is the only moral and human basis of a civilization, and of a state within that civilization, that can include and do justice to the rights of Muslims, Christians, Jews, modern pagans, and atheists. In other words, a society like Europe or America. Our repudiation of natural law is, in the Pope's mind, at least as dangerous as Islam's. For the practical atheism of the West is even more dangerous than the religious fundamentalism and theocracy of Islam. Better to be ruled by a Muslim version of John Calvin than by a new European Joseph Stalin. For Calvin, like Muhammad, believes a philosophy that gives man dignity and rights, and a philosophy that has room for the natural law value of tolerance, even though both Calvin and Muhammad were quite weak on this or even suspicious of it. But Stalin's philosophy simply cannot tolerate a higher law than the law of the state at all. It is very hard for an atheist to admit a natural law. And if there is no natural law, then all values are mere human creations and ideologies. And if all values are mere human creations, then the same is true of values like dignity and rights and tolerance. This same logic holds for Nazism and fascism. Mussolini wrote, "Everything I have done in these past few years is relativism by intuition. If relativism signifies contempt for fixed categories and for individuals who claim to be the bearers of an immortal truth or a divine revelation, then there is nothing more relativistic than fascist attitudes and activities. From the premise that there are no eternal truths, that all values are historically relative, the fascist draws the logical conclusion that everyone has the right to make up his own values and to try to enforce them with all the power he can command." Unquote. Now I ask you, does that sound more like Islamic fundamentalism or like the notorious mystery passage in the American Supreme Court's Casey decision? I'm continually puzzled by American conservatives who fulminate with fear against Islamic primitivism and ignore American sophisticated decadence, who fear alien absolutisms more than homebred relativisms. If we do not get our own moral house in order, and we make that task quite impossible if we reject the natural law, we have wounded our right to preach to the house of Islam, or to the world. Thank you for being patient. I invite your questions.